Moshiach thought number 207. Talking about Rebbe's third message to us in the years and all of the days about Kabbalah's Mashiach came that we need to accept Mashiach, receive and accept Mashiach upon ourselves. So tonight we're going to continue this and explore what we really mean. What is this connection, this Kabbalah's Mashiach that the Rebbe expected of us? So what we know is that when the Rebbe talked about this, it was the theme, as we mentioned last night, of Cheshvan and Tafshin and Days. There was a theme of the Kinnus HaShluchim that was Kol Yimei Hayacha Lahava L'Mas Mashiach. But this had to be the key point, that all the days of our lives, it is to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe therefore concluded the Sikha, toward the end of the Sikha, the Rebbe was talking to the Shluchim. The Rebbe said the following very strong words. And this isn't anything new to what we've been discussed earlier in our Mashiach thoughts, but the words are very powerful. If we pay attention, if we take note of what the Rebbe said. So what did the Rebbe tell the Shluchim that year? It's required to go out with a announcement, a broadcast to all the Shluchim. Sha'avodas hashlichus achshav, at our avodah of shlichus, the shall call Yehudim, not just the official Shluchim, who are known as Shluchim, who have access to the Kinnus HaShluchim, but the avodah of shlichus in general, which means, and that means now, for people who are officially Shluchim, and for Kol Yehudi, for every single Jew, mispatek b'zeh, it's expressed in this, that what? Sheikablu espnei Mashiach tzidkenu, that they need to accept Mashiach. Klaimer, what does that mean? The Rebbe said this means it's something really important. That kol hapratim b'avodas hashlichus shal b'chatzas haTorah v'hayahadus b'chatzas hamayanos tutza. So all the general avodah that people think when you go on shlichus, and like the Rebbe always said, shlichus is not just again the official shluchim, but every single person who had any connection with the Rebbe is a shliach of the Rebbe or a shluchah, has this the kayak the Rebbe gives them to do what the Rebbe wants of them and to be his emissary. The Rebbe says all of the details of that avodah that we do, in spreading Torah and Yiddishkeit and spreading Chassidus, all that, so they all have to be permeated with this point. So it's not about, it's really important we go on mitzvah neshet, because it's important for Jews to bench lift. It's important for people to put on tefillin. So it's not that we need to treat this mitzvah Mashiach as another mitzvah. So some people like do mitzvah neshet, some people are comfortable with mitzvah sekretara, some people do mitzvah tefillin, and some people, it's for other people who like to do mitzvah Mashiach. Remember, said it's not that way at all. Because mitzvah Mashiach, it's not another mitzvah. So we can compartmentalize and say, okay, I can do this mitzvah or that mitzvah. The Rebbe says everything else that we do, the spreading of Torah and Yiddishkeit and Chassidus, all of it has to be permeated with that main point. That has to be the reason for all of it. Now, the focus has to be that all of these things that we're doing it because it's leading us to be able to greet Mashiach. That is the point of it. And specifically, the Rebbe was saying that this is something that, again, it's not this other thing that we do side by side. And I think I've mentioned this earlier. I remember it would have been last year. I was, or even more than that, I was listening to a Farbrengen, a worldwide Farbrengen. We'll go over. Well, I think it was even before the Zoom times kind of thing, it was like on the phone. And this was something that the Shulchos were talking about. This idea that we think about mitzvah Mashiach as something when I do everything else that I need to do, then I will start focusing on this concept of learning Mashiach. But the Rebbe wasn't saying that. The Rebbe was saying that everything that we do has to have that focus. So what does that mean practically? The Rebbe continued. The Rebbe said, what does this look like? Hakavana b'pashtusi, the Rebbe said. Simply, the intention is as follows. Shemikinas hashluchim tzrichim lavai, that from this kinas hashluchim, that over there that year, people need to go, ulhavi achlatas tayvais, and they have to come up with good resolution. Ketzad kol shliach, how every single shliach, tzarach lehiskayim, needs to prepare himself, right? Ba'atzmai, so he himself has to think about himself, what he needs to do to prepare himself, and then right, and then to prepare all the Jews who are in where he lives and in his city for what? The Kabbalah's ben Mashiach to be able to greet Mashiach. And how does that happen? How do we prepare ourselves and all the people around us to be able to greet Mashiach? As we have been doing for over a year here, it's become through. There's a particular way to do this. It's on the way to master Inyono Shel Moshiach. The only way another Jew can understand this acceptance of Mashiach and this ability to greet Mashiach and connect ourselves to Mashiach has to be first and foremost through explaining this whole concept of what we mean by Mashiach. Because when we use the terminology of Mashiach and Geula, not everybody understands what we're saying. They might have their own ideas of what this means, and therefore they can't hear, they can't accept what we're telling them. So Rabbi said the first step has to be explaining Inyono Shel Moshiach. As it is explained in the Torah, in the written Torah and in the oral Torah. So it's something that we make up. We have the sources. And also, how do we do this? How do we explain to people? We have to explain it in a way that the person we're talking to can understand it. It's got to be based on their intellect and based on their understanding. So depending on how much they know about the sources in Torah, that's how we have to explain it. We have to start from the very beginning, from baby steps, and that's what we need to do. And this is and especially how do we really understand the concept of Mashiach is by learning the concept of Mashiach and Geula. And especially the and specifically in this manner of Chabad, in other words, in using our intellect to try to understand it as much as possible. And then the Rebbe considered and since this is the avodah of our time, therefore this is an avodah that is for all of us, without exception. This is not just for the shluchim, or just for the shluchos, or just for the rebbetzim. This is for each and every person. Everybody has to think about what they know, what are they doing to understand better the whole concept of Mashiach and Geula, and what are they doing to help other Jewish people understand. So this was the call of the hour at that time. Now, when we think about this, what do we mean by this accepting Mashiach, greeting Mashiach, connecting to Mashiach? Whatever points out, and again, this is something that we have been learning throughout the year. Now, when we talk about the connection between the king and the nation, there are actually three levels of this connection. Level number one is Kabbalah's Olachna. That is the pure acceptance of the yoke of the king. You're completely serving to the king. And that's based on the pasuk we know in Chumash Dvarim, Som Tasim Alecha Melech, Shetehei Imasa Alecha. The idea that we have to accept upon ourselves, or put a king upon ourselves, and that we have to have that fear, that awe of the king. And then, therefore, we do whatever the king wants us to do, whether we like it or not, or we understand it or not, it makes no difference. That's level one of connecting, of a nation's connection to a king. But there is a higher level. The higher level is that connection, where it's a more internal connection, from the Yechida, where there's the Chira and Ratzon, where the nation chooses the king and accepts the king as their king. So it's not just about Kabbalah soul, but there is this Ratzon. And like we say, that Hashem Malchus, with a willingness, the Jewish people accepted that Malchus upon themselves. But there's still a third level. And the third level of connection to a king is that level of that the king and the nation are like one. As we know, this would came to Hasidim, where the Rebbe told us that Eitzel chassid, it's well known that by chassid, who b'harebi v'kadosh baruch hu zedava echad, that a chassid sees himself and the Rebbe and Hashem as all connected together, because that is the level, as we spoke about, that is the level of atzmos. So when we look at these three levels, Kabbalah's Ol and Achna is a level that we could have for any king. So all the kings, whether it was Malchus Beis David or Malchus Yehud or Yisrael, there is this idea that if you have a king, you have to listen to the king. Then there's another level, this connection with Ratzon, which is specifically more about the Malchus Beis David. That there is this Yechida connection, like we said, that from Malchus Beis David, that king has the soul level of king. Therefore, that's the Yechida of the Jewish people, and therefore there is a much more internal, themistic connection between the nation and that king. And then, of course, there is Mashiach, who represents the true connection that the Jewish people have with their king, and that's the connection that we have in the future with the Gula Shlema, when we recognize that we as a Jewish people are completely one with Hashem. Therefore, also completely one with the king. That it's not just a connection of Yechidah, but a connection even higher than that, this connection of Atzmos. And this is something that we see in a Seahawk basement in Tashim Emachas, and I remember it so clearly, right? Not before my wedding, where the Rebbe was talking about these levels and saying that this notion of accepting the king upon us and recognizing that connection comes about through this pronouncement of Yechi HaMelech, long live the king. That generally on a simple level, when we call out Yechi HaMelech, long live the king, that is a pronouncement of Kabbalah's oath, that we accept upon ourselves the yoke of that king. But the Rebbe said, we can look at it further. Yechi, the idea of Yechi HaMelech, may the king live, has that same connection. It's a connection of Chaim. It's our life. That this connection to the king is not just a connection of Kabbalah's oath, but recognizing that it's a much more internal connection, because this is our connection. This is what gives us life. Because the king is the leg. He's the heart of the nation. And that's, of course, this connection of the Yechidah. But then, even more than that, the connection that we have, the Jewish people have with Mashiach, is higher than that. It's not just not just a connection of Kabbalah soul, not just a connection of Yechidah. It's actually a connection of Chad Mamish, of being one with the King. And that is Mashiach himself becoming one with Hashem. And that is why the Rebbe then talked about, and Shabbos Parshas told us of some things, where he explained this idea, that the idea of Kol Yimei Chayecha L'Havod L'Mais Mashiach means that as soon as a person wakes up in the morning, this notion we have to feel, and this is what the word of the Rebbe, Teiv Kashanilo, right when we wake up, Margish B'Neshimas Ha'avir Inyono Shel Moshiach. We feel with every breath that we take, we feel that concept of Mashiach. Avir Shel Moshiach, Rucha Shel Moshiach. In other words, that is what it is. That every breath that we have is all permeated with this idea. Our entire focus, we recognize that everything that we do is all about Mashiach. It's our whole purpose here, and every breath that we take is its full and complete dedication and devotion to Mashiach of our generation. So that we can actually, when we feel that and we can breathe that with every breath that we take, that is a very deep connection that we can have. That's what the Rebbe would say on a deeper level meant when he said we have to prepare ourselves for this Kabbalah's Mashiach, for this complete acceptance and devotion and readiness to greet Mashiach and to connect ourselves, belay the nefesh, to this mission of preparing the world to do the same. We merit to see that immediately.